Well, Pete, I am so excited today to talk about, wholesaling and your years in this business. And I know you've done quite a few deals, wholesale deals. I mean, how many have you done, you think?
Well, I know it's in the thousands. I know it's over 3,000, but like it's crazy that you asked me this question because I literally like now we look at wholesaling as like this most basic thing. Everybody does it. Every beginner gets into it. But like I had no idea what the word wholesaling even meant. Like forget doing wholesaling deals. Like when I got started, I had no idea what the heck wholesaling was. Like I literally thought when I got started in real estate that like the only way it works either you get a rental property or you buy, fix, and sell. And like literally had no concept of what wholesaling was. And so I get started. I had $500,000. So like I'm thinking, wow, I got a big advantage in this whole thing, right?
So wait a second. When you started in this business, you had $500,000 to start with?
Yeah, like, you think about it, that's like pretty cool. Actually was not cool.
Yeah.
Because had I not had that money, I probably would have like studied a little bit more and I would have realized that you actually can wholesale and not risk any money. But I had money and I just thought, well, okay, well, if you have money, which is good, then you go out there, you find a house, you fix a house, and you sell a house. Like, to me, that's what real estate was.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that's what everybody does.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. 6 months into this thing, right, I did 6 deals, right? 6 months, 6 deals. And I still remember, like, when I was halfway through these deals, one night I was talking to my partner, right? And I call it now spreadsheet investing, right? And I remember talking to Jeff. We were at his house talking to Jeff, my partner. And I was a typical spreadsheet investor. Like, okay, Jeff, look, we bought this one for, I don't know, $200,000. We're spending $80,000. That's another stupid thing I did, right? Like, who does their first deal and spends like $70,000 or $80,000? I think like my cheapest rehab on my first 6 deals was like $70,000. Like we don't do $70,000 rehabs now, or we try not to, right?
Yeah.
But I started out with like 6 deals that all needed total overhaul. But I still remember talking to Jeff one night. And we're looking at our spreadsheets, and on those first 6 deals, right, according to the Excel spreadsheet, we were making like $1.5 million.
Yeah.
And I still remember back then because
And you guys were like, yes, we are rolling in the dough now.
well, not only that, but Jeff, like I love Jeff to pieces, and we were partners all the way till the crash. But Jeff's kind of a simple guy. Like he was a military dude. Matter of fact, when he got out of real estate, he went back in the military. I mean, in his 40s. Like who goes back to the military in their 40s? So Jeff's kind of a simple dude. Was a simple dude, and I still remember looking at the spreadsheet, and and that's exactly what Jeff was saying. He's like, "Holy man, I could like retire out after this. I mean, we could just do these 6 deals." And then I had this crazy thought. I'm like, "This is so easy. Like, I don't understand why the whole world's not doing it." Okay, so that was probably like, I'm guessing that was probably like month number 3 into this whole thing, right? So month number 3, we're going into it with like $1.5 million profit, convinced like. Like you don't know what you don't know. And I did not know that things could not work out. Like it wasn't even in my realm of imagination that it would not work out. And 3 months later, every single one, forget $1.5 million. Not only did we not make money in any of them, every one of those deals put together collectively cost me my $500,000. So basically, every single projection we made went absolutely sideways. But all this to say, so I had no money, but yet still I didn't do the right thing. Now that, that when I think about it, the right thing at that point would have been like, okay, I'm broke. I don't want to quit. So what, like, I should have like started strategizing what I should do, checked into some, to me still, I guess I was still in the mode of you don't know what you don't know. I didn't do my research that I could have started wholesaling. So what did I do? I started borrowing money. Now, who do I borrow money from? I borrow money from Mr. Visa, Mr. MasterCard. And so Jeff and I collect, like I remember we would get home at night, right? And he'd go to his mailbox, I go to mailbox, and we call each other at night. And he'd be like, oh, dude, I just got $5,000 of credit. I'll be like, oh, man, I got a credit card for $10,000. So basically, we racked up another $250,000 in the next 2 months of debt, and lost all of that too. because we were just taking that money and again, I didn't even think to see, like, are there strategies out there that I don't need money for? So at that point, I was out. I mean, I was out of money. We were out of credit. We couldn't borrow anymore. And that's like, I still don't remember how, but somehow by accident, I stumbled into wholesaling. I don't know how. Somebody must have told me, like, dude, you know, you could actually do deals and not risk any of your own money or any of the lender's money.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this question. So you don't remember who told you about it.
Nope.
But I'm sure you remember the feeling. Like, how did it feel like when you first heard, like, the concept of wholesaling? Well, I mean, do you think, is this too good to be true? Is this real? Or?
Well, you got to understand back then, right? I was pretty much like homeless. I had no money left to my name. I had no credibility. So to me, it wasn't like, wow, this is a cool strategy. To me, it was like lifesaver. Like, it was literally like I was drowning and somebody throws you a life vest, and there's like sheer joy, right? Total sheer joy. And it was like, I went finally, you know, like I said, I don't know who taught me. I cannot remember the moment I learned about wholesaling, but when somebody finally pointed that out to me, it was a game changer. You know, as a matter of fact, now that I think about it, this is a question people always ask me, like, what kept you going? And so weird that you're asking me these questions, because it just hit me what kept me going. That's what kept me going. What kept me going was that I finally had some answers. Like, because before, I mean, if at that point somebody would have told me, well, to do another deal, you know, you have to, you know, have another $50,000, that would, I don't think I would have had any other options.
Yeah.
So I would have been out of the business. So now when people are going to ask me what kept you going during times like that, I know what kept me going. I found a strategy. Like, I found a legitimate strategy back then that absolutely would have kept me in the game.
Yeah, I know. I know whenever I, you know, first heard about wholesaling, which, by the way, was from you, you know, I think I heard a couple of those, you know, those late night info commercials, and there'd be like the dude sitting in front of his mansion with a nice red car, and he's like, I did all this with no money down, and da, 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 da. I, like, didn't get the concept then. But when I learned it from you, I remember, like, for me, I remember the exact moment, because I thought to myself, there's no way. There's, like, no way that you could do this. And I'm thinking, I can do this. Like, I can do this. So, you know, for those listening right now, I want to create that moment, like, that I had with you, if that's okay with you, Pete. So I want, like, you're meeting somebody for the first time, like, right this second, and you're introducing the wholesale business. I mean, what's really the definition for real estate wholesaling for someone?
Well, look, there's what I call the dictionary definition, but I kind of have a spin on it. So obviously the dictionary definition of wholesaling, you got to find a good deal, right? And you take control of it by locking it up under contract, and then you just find, instead of you showing up at closing, you find another investor who looks at that deal, they like the deal. You mark up the contract by whatever, 5, 10, 15,000. At closing, they step in, they give the seller what you had under contract, and you keep the spread. So that's like the definition, the dictionary definition. But I'll tell you, today the market's so hot, I would just tell somebody, like, if I had to describe what wholesaling is in today's marketplace, this is going to sound crazy. I think wholesaling is just finding a good deal, because there's such a demand now for deals. You know, the market's so hot. There's so much money in the marketplace. I don't think you have to be like back then, I had to have a pretty darn developed back-end investor database. And I'm not saying you don't anymore, but there's such a demand for deals now that I would just, like, if I was like just teaching this to a brand new person, I'd be like, just go find a deal. It's all about marketing. Spend 98% of your time on marketing. Don't even worry, because a hot deal is so hot right now. I think I could literally call a real estate agent, right, that works with investors. This is what I would do. This is what I would do if I was brand new right now. I would spend all my time on marketing, contacting owners, learn how to market. That I would invest money into, that I would invest time into, and I would really understand the art of contacting owners and getting a deal, right? And here's how I would sell it. Like, this is unusual. I don't think you've ever even heard me say this, but this is exactly what I would do. Instead of building an investor database, right, because the market's so hot, I'd literally call a real estate agent. And I'd ask them this question. I'd say, hey, who do you work with? You work with homeowners or you work with investors? Oh, Pete, I work with homeowners. Okay, click, buy. Call the next real estate agent. Hey, who do you work with? Homeowners or investors? I work with homeowners. Okay, click, buy. Next real estate agent. Hey, you got any investors you work with or are you just homeowners? Oh, yeah, I'm pretty much all investors. And I'd tell them about my deal, and I bet that realtor would move that deal.
It is so funny that you say this. Like, so funny, because what you're saying right now, like, just happened last night.
Yeah.
So do you know how, like, we work with Lawrence at, we have a partner program. We work with Lawrence Cosper. So we got this deal, right?
Right.
And it is a house that's tenant occupied.
Okay.
Because, sometimes a deal is a deal because it's either tenant occupied or maybe the investor wants a fix and flip. Well, I said, Lawrence, you're working with this agent because she's an investor-friendly agent. I was like, this is such a decent deal. I swear, if you just called her up, she might know somebody that would want this before we even have to buy it. Like, exactly what you just said. And guess what? We had an offer this morning. That one we were talking about earlier today.
It's exactly what I would do. I mean, we're in a great market. We're in a hot market. I know realtors like that I know personally, like some friends of mine, they're getting blown up right now. I mean, people are calling them for both. Hey, I need a personal house because the market's hot for personal houses and investor market's hot. So they're getting blown up with these people and there's just not enough inventory. Yeah. So like, I hate to say it. I don't even know if it's true because we're looking at our deals and we're making more than we ever have in our deals. So we know the hot market. But right now it is all about just finding deals. Yeah. It is easier now to wholesale than it was when I was doing it. Yeah. For a lot of reasons. But one of the biggest reasons, it is so easy to move inventory right now. Yeah. So easy. And the other crazy thing, and we see it just from our deals. Like, think about this. When we were wholesaling ourselves, right? When we were wholesaling ourselves, we had these black and white tight margins, right? Like, hey, if it ain't got 25% equity or 30% equity, we ain't doing a deal, right? Who would have thought 4 years ago, that we would be in California, like especially California, like one of the the hardest markets in the world, and who thought we'd be in California and we would be doing deals like we do with Seth? And I know you don't even look at those numbers anymore because they're like clockwork. I mean, we're doing deals with 20% margin, and I'm like approving them.
Oh, I know. Sometimes it's like, I can't believe you're approving these numbers.
Well, it's because, again, the market is so hot. Like this text I got this morning, were you on that chain with Mary? Where she says, hey, I just woke up, and three BC, which means 3 contracts came in for properties that we got finished yesterday. Like yesterday, I get a text that I needed to release 3 escrows, right? I needed to release 3 escrows. So if I'm just releasing escrows yesterday, you're thinking that deal just is done, right? I mean, you still got to clean the house. You still got to put it in the market. Today, we have 3 offers on these deals. So it's like construction guys are in there yesterday. Today, we're already getting offers on this stuff.
They're like, hey, let me finish for a minute. I got stuff to do.
It's crazy. I mean, it is totally crazy. So, yeah, like wholesaling, obviously, we all know it now. It is definitely the easiest strategy. Nothing's easy, but out of all of them, wholesaling is the easiest one. It's obviously the less risky one. It's obviously the least capital intensive one. We got all the benefits. But like I would tell people all day long, it is easier to do it now than it ever has been.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because of demand. Now see that. So here's the other thing. People say, well, yeah, it might be easier to sell, but that means it's harder to find them. I'm not sure I agree with that. Because we got this crazy thing called COVID out there, right? And I don't care what you feel about COVID, perception is reality, right? Everyone's got their own opinion about COVID, perception and reality. And the perception to the United States right now is that COVID is like really, really messing people up. And so what does that do? That creates all these motivated sellers that we didn't have, right? So before COVID, who's a motivated seller? Like a divorced dude, a sick dude, a guy that's got to move. Now there's like millions of new motivated sellers. So the people that say, well, Pete, that's not really good logic, that, it's easier to sell, but why are you not talking about how hard it is to buy? Because it must be hard to buy. Not really, because we have millions and millions and millions of people who, by the way, a lot of them aren't even in trouble, but the perception is we're in a pandemic, so I have to act like I'm in trouble. And so, like, there's this deal we're working on right now. I know you know it, with Graham, right? So this is like, I had no idea how some people were treating COVID. Check this out, right? I don't even know if you know the depth of this deal. So this guy, when COVID starts, he's in Arizona. Where's Graham live? Is it in Tucson?
No, that's the other house we're doing.
Okay, well,
He's
wherever.
in Phoenix.
Maybe it's in Phoenix, right? So this guy in Phoenix makes a tactical decision because of COVID. Like, what do we think about? COVID is a health issue. This guy made a business decision. And what's his business decision? 2 years ago, when COVID hits, he makes a business decision. I know this because he tells us this. He goes, I made a business decision 2 years ago. I could either pay money to my mortgage company, or I could just save it. He said, I developed a savings account. And so during the COVID, he would have ended up paying his mortgage company $1.7 million. He's like, well, guess what? I made a business decision. I'm going to pocket that $1.7 million. So in essence, he is literally...
Because he knew the moratorium was going to come, that he wasn't going to be made to move.
Totally. And so this guy, in his mind, and it's true, I mean, I can see exactly where he's coming from. He is literally $1.7 million up because of this COVID. Well, moratorium's up. He's in pre-foreclosures now, right? And so, but again, it was a business decision for him. So now he's like, well, funds up. So now it's time to get rid of this house, right? And so...
Fun's over.
Well, it is. I mean, to him, hey, this little business model has run its course. I made $1.7 million. But we're benefiting, right? We're benefiting because he's got to sell. He can't do anything about it. He doesn't want to.
Now he's too far behind.
He's too far behind. He's not, it's money in his pocket. He likes it. He's confident with it. So now, the house is going to be foreclosed on. He don't want to go through foreclosure, obviously. You don't want your credit ruined. You don't want a lawsuit potentially and all this. So we're the benefactors of it, right? And if the deal comes off, we're still kind of working with him, still going back and forth. But if a deal comes off, that is a $1 million deal.
What?
Yeah.
Wait a second. Because I want everybody that's listening right now, because, you and I talk about these things a lot. So you're telling me that because of the strategies that you've learned over the last 20 years, because of the fact that we're now teaching people or working with somebody like an awesome partner named Graham, right? That we're putting a deal together, a wholesale deal, flipping rich, right?
Yep.
That's going to make $1 million.
Yeah.
Earlier, you know what you said? You're like, oh, we'll just add this $5,000, right? I mean, and it's not like $5,000 isn't a lot of money. That's a good deal too.
Yep.
Right? But every once in a while, you're going to run into this.
Yep.
$1 million.
Yep.
And you know what's crazy? I know this to be true. In our partner program, we split profits. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, it's life changing for you. $500,000 is a lot of money
for anybody,
right? For anybody.
That's right.
But for Graham and Jenny, and Jenny's his wife, by the way, you know that. I mean, I'm so excited for them. I mean, what a life-changing, I mean,
No
there's,
question.
you know how we joke around and we've got this hashtag free Jenny. And we joke around about it because
Right.
Jenny works at a job where
Right.
she has to go every day. I mean, this is like hashtag free Jenny, like coming true right now. And
In
we're
real life.
closing on another one of his deals in Tucson,
Yep.
in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, this other one we bought for $250. We spent under 10, so that puts us at $260. And within 3 weeks, we got an offer to close in 2 weeks, We're in the middle of those 2 weeks right now for 324.
Yeah.
So that's a cool $65,000 profit. But here's my point about that deal and all these other deals is that it is easier now to do this business that in terms of like hottest market I've ever seen, more opportunities I've ever seen, more money in the business than there's ever been, more motivation from the sellers. I mean, like how many more times can like opportunity and timing cross than what's taking place right now? And again, it's like, it's this, you hear me talk about equilibrium, right? Because real estate, it's always out of balance. Like it's a seller's market, it's a buyer's market. Money is easy, money's hard, interest rates up, interest rates down. Equilibrium right now. It is absolutely equilibrium right now, meaning huge motivation on the seller side. I don't care what people say. It exists. Again, perception's reality. And at the same time, on the other side, huge demand by the buyers. I mean, okay, what else can you ask for, right? You just got to get out there and execute the stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, really now that we're talking about that, we talked about wholesaling a deal. You talked about how to do a wholesale deal, right? The act of putting a house under contract at a certain amount, assigning your equitable interest into that contract to an end buyer, which is generally another investor, right?
Yep.
That either wants to buy, fix, and sell it or wants to rent it out.
Yep.
What makes wholesaling different, really, than just like buying and selling like we were talking about earlier? What makes wholesaling in general, what makes that different than buying a house and then turning around and selling it?
Well, I tell you, wholesaling throws real estate upside down. This is the way I look at it. Because, think about it. If you talk to an average person in the street, what do you need if you're going to be a real estate investor? Well, you need money. That's probably going to be the very first thing they're going to think about it. You need, as an investor, you're probably going to need to fix stuff, right? Because, that's what an average person, that's what I thought when you got in this business, right? I needed money. And I needed to be able to fix stuff.
And that you need to be licensed. People ask me that all the time.
You need to be licensed. What's the other thing people think about? Like an average person might also say, okay, real estate investing, well, you got to be a long-term player, right? Because a lot of people perceive real estate as a long-term play, right? So what does wholesaling do? It throws everything upside down. You need money. Nope. Not if you wholesale. You don't need money. Nope. You need to understand some kind of rehab. Nope. Not if you're wholesaling, you need to understand rehab. Okay, real estate, you better be locked in for a long period. No, don't have to be locked in for a long period of time. You can make money you could start a deal today, right? Looking for a deal today and literally be cashing out that deal within the next 30 days. So it is totally opposite. This is why I didn't understand wholesaling in the beginning, because it's nothing that most people perceive real estate to be. And here's the other thing. I don't know how many people would think this, but I would say probably a big number of people would think this. You better have a lot of knowledge. Real estate is a big business. And I know I had this conception or perception that you better know a lot of things. And I'm not saying there's not a lot not to know in real estate. You could probably study real estate for the next 20 years and not know it all. But wholesaling is the simplest thing to understand, right? If I were to explain to you right now how to do a development, you and I would be rattling back and forth for 2 hours, and you would still be like, I'm not sure if I get it all, right?
Yeah.
And I probably would not be able to explain it all in 2 hours. But wholesaling, I could explain it to you in 5 minutes, and I don't care if you've never wholesaled real estate or ever even done real estate, you will get the concept. So it throws this whole thing out about money. It throws this whole thing out about rehab. It throws this whole thing about expertise. It throws this whole thing out about long-term play. It just throws it's real estate totally on steroids is how I think about it. It's totally on steroids. And the other thing, and you see this in the deals we do, because the type of market we're in, and because the kind of things that we're able to do, why did if you think of what's the one connotation about wholesaling that a lot of us have, including you and I, up until about a couple years ago? You don't make as much, right? That's like a perception that even, like I just said, you and I had this, even we felt with that perception. Hey, if you can make a lot, we rather fix and flip. Tight margins, okay, we'll wholesale it. Well, that's out the door now, right? I mean, when was the last time we talked about $1 million profit deal that we could sell as is, basically wholesale it? You know, when was the last time we talked about, this deal we just did on the south side in Atlanta, where Ivan did the open house? I don't know if you remember this, but this was with can't remember the partner's name.
Was it Jamari?
No. This was Newland Vargas.
Oh yeah.
So he finds a deal, remember, in the south side of Atlanta. The next day, right? We do, what do? We do exactly what I just said, what I would do. We call Ivan, one of our realtors. He calls some of his investors. He has this crazy showing, right? Like 10, 20 investors show up. When was the last time that happened? Like in the pre-COVID years.
And hey, let's stop on that subject for just a second.
Okay.
Let's imagine that the only way that you had to find deals was through agents. And you're like, oh yeah, come to this open house. And you get to the open house.
Oh my God.
And there's 20 other investors there. I mean, like, I would flip out. I don't even know that I'd look at the house. I think I might just walk out because I don't know that I'd want to like go through the competition. But that's what it's like, ain't it?
It's crazy. But you know what the backstory? I don't know if you even know this. The backstory, that's exactly what happened. But, and again, this is why you better know what you're doing in this business. One of those investors had the exact same idea. He shows up with this property. He knows what our strategy we're using. He knows we don't have it closed yet. So what does he do? He contacts the seller directly. He's like, hey, I'll just buy it from you directly. We don't need Vekselman in the middle. I'll just, I'll pay you a little bit more than he's even got under contract. So next day, we get our attorneys get a call from the seller's attorney, right? And they're like, our client is backing out of the deal, all right? And at that point, Ivan already told me, Pete, remember, we're just wholesaling it, right? We're not putting money into it. We're not doing anything. We're selling it as is, no rehab, no nothing. Our realtor had it sold for $100,000 more, okay? So that's a lot of money, right? And especially since half of it goes to our partner. So I get a call from our attorneys like, Pete, this guy's backing out. Now, look, you and I have let plenty of people back out of deals for legitimate reasons, right? This turns out is a savvy seller, an executive. I mean, just knew exactly what he was doing. Mm-hmm. He was like he was like the back-end investor who went around this, and the seller basically were in cahoots. And I'm like, we're not losing $100,000, and
we're not losing it for Newland,
and we're not losing it for Newland. So I told Brandon, I'm like, he's like, what do you want to do? I was like, we're suing them. So we filed this lawsuit the same day. 2 days later, I get a call from our attorney. He's like, their attorney called. Like, no mas, we're done. Go ahead, we'll do the deal with Pete. But that's the market we're in right now. I mean, it is a crazy. When was the last time? That's the other good thing. We're talking about wholesaling. That last piece that you can't make as much. That's all BS. We made $100,000 in that deal, and we literally never touched the property. We didn't do anything to it. $100,000 of profit. So now, no money, no expertise, don't have to do it for a long time, don't have to know it all, don't have to worry about rehab. Oh, and by the way, now you can make as much as you can before risking it all. Risking money, risking time, risking rehab, better know what you're doing and all this. And now the margins are through the roof. So it's like wholesaling is where it's at right now. I mean, for me, that's the play right now.
Yeah, so you'd say it's like your favorite thing?
Yeah, I mean, look.
Because there's this misconception, Pete. Like people will say, oh, wholesaling, that's for the beginners, right? Or that's where you should start. And I think it's a great place to start, but it isn't for just the beginners.
Hey, like I said, I wish I knew this as a beginner. I would have saved my butt like $750,000 of heartaches. But having said that, they're right. It is for beginners, right? Because again, no money, no risk, no rehab, no long-term play. So there's no question. But if it works for a beginner, what's to say it doesn't work for a guy like me who's been doing this for 22 years? It is for beginners. I agree. If I was getting started again, my biggest mistake is I should have learned, taken the time instead of jumping in head over heels, buying those 6 crazy houses that I lost everything, basically, made myself homeless. I wish I would have taking my time, learn about wholesaling. So I agree, wholesaling is for beginners and intermediates and savvy investors like you and I. Heck, and you know this, there's people wholesaling multi-million-dollar properties.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's people wholesaling subdivisions. There's people wholesaling, 200 tracts of land.
Yeah.
So no, wholesaling is for the beginners, but it's not only for beginners.
Well,
it's for
you know
everyone.
what? Like for somebody that's listening to this right now, Pete, I'm assuming there's might be some beginners on here, and you obviously, you said it. You made some mistakes in the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yep.
let's stop that from happening for some beginners. If someone was a beginner, how do you start marketing for deals in the beginning? Like what do you feel like if you had limited funds right now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, limited funds. You understand the concept. You probably work in a full-time job, but you want to cut your teeth on wholesaling.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first thing you would do to go out and find deals? Like if you had something where all of those things were in
Right.
place, what would you do?
So this is what I tell people about real estate, and I talked about it 10 minutes ago. Real estate is an ever-changing game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate, depreciate, easy money, hard money, easy deals, can't find deals. Interest rates up and down. Well, not only real estate as a whole is always changing. Real estate parts are always changing. Marketing is one of those things that changes, and you know this. Things that you and I used to do 5-10 years ago, we don't like now. We're like, we aren't doing those things anymore because marketing techniques and strategies change. So if I was brand new today, just getting started, had limited expertise, limited budget, maybe even limited time, I would do whatever it takes to get a hold of sellers. I mean, it is the deals, right? The people that are making mistakes right now, they're making very basic mistakes. Like they're using real estate agents. That's amateur hour. That you can't get deals from. They're using other wholesalers. That's like a total, big waste of time.
Causing daisy chains.
Oh, it's just I could tell you horror stories about that. We need to do a podcast on that one day. But so the basic mistakes people are making right now is that right there. They don't understand how to find deals. It is not impossible to find deals right now, but you have to know how to find them. And it isn't a 100% totally, this, it is an owner's game. You got to get a hold of owners. Now, the good thing is in today's world, there's things that people have that like I didn't have, right? Like, they have access to data I didn't have access to. Heck, even we got deal driven. We got an app that'll, pull lists for people and stuff like that. So I would just do the basics. Like if you're literally broke, get yourself a list. They're easy to get of owners where you live and just start dialing for dollars. And even if you're not like perfectly scripted, just ask them if they want to sell their house. Like anybody, like even if you cannot go into the level that you teach, Julie, right? But if you could say this word, hey, I'm interested in buying your house. Would you sell it to me? Like if you could just at least do that, you could make a ton in real estate, And so that's all I would do. I would literally I would get a hold of owners. Now, if I had a little bit of a budget, at least a little bit of a budget, I would get a little bit more creative with it, right? I would try to get some inbound calls. If I had a little bit more of a budget, I'd get even more creative. I would get inbound qualified leads. Like I would do web-based marketing, not me personally, but I would hire a company to do that. So whatever you do, you better be going directly to owners.
So are you saying in the beginning that the first thing you would do is to be talking to actual owners on record of the property? So, because like a lot of people tell me they're worried about getting business cards done. They're worried about getting logos done. They're worried about, finding the right title company, the right attorney, the right buyers, all of those things that, inevitably might matter later. But if you're brand new, that the only thing I should do is be contacting sellers. And at the very least, call them and say, hey, I want to buy your house.
Yep.
You willing to sell it? I totally agree because, right, like none of those things matter if you don't have deals.
There's no question.
I mean, you could build buyers lists all day long, but if you ain't got any deals, what does it matter?
There's no question. And again, the market's so hot, it's not going to be hard for you to get rid of that deal. And guess what? When you get rid of that deal, when somebody steps up and says, yeah, I want the deal, that's how you find your title company, right? That's how you find your closing agent. Because I'm sure they have one, right? That's how you, I mean, it's not rocket. People complicate this thing right now. So it's all about owner to owner. I call it hand combat. Get a hold of the owners. And it just play the numbers game.
Yeah.
And if you could do that, or if you can't do that, get a kid. Like I got 3 teenagers. Like if I was starting over and I had no ability to do anything, to even say that, hey, would you open and sell my house? Like I'd pay my kids a couple bucks, and I'd be giving them each lists of 50 names to call, and I would just literally just say, hey, my dad wants to buy your house. He just asked me to call you.
Or here's another thing: you write a letter, right? And have the kids like handwrite envelopes.
Yep.
I mean, so the excuses, right? I think a lot of times people get overwhelmed and they try to bite off more than they can chew. But really, when it boils down to it, it just comes down to taking action. Because what you're telling me is not that I don't have to have a college degree. I don't have to have this, and this. I mean, you're telling me I just need to put effort into something, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's powerful. That's powerful stuff.
Yep. Well, you know what it is? It's powerful results.
Yeah.
It's simple stuff. It's not rocket science. I mean, in today's marketplace, if you want money, if you want to make more than you're making now, if you want to have a better lifestyle, I don't know what else I would be doing. People are talking about, well, you could all these crazy new investment things out there. I don't understand any of that, but I sure as heck can get a hold of some owners and ask them, if they want to sell something. Anybody can do that. So I think right now, for people that are willing to make some kind of a time commitment, there's never been a better time to jump in than right now.
Wow, I totally agree with you, Peter. And I'm really excited. I hope people are listening to us. If the only thing they get from this is it's not as hard as you think, and to take action, right?
Yep.
That's all it boils down to. So, I guess one last thing. We're going to close out today's episode of Flippin' Rich. If you had, in a couple sentences, somebody that's watching this right now, and they're like, I think I can do this. I think I can do this. In a few sentences, what would you tell them?
Tell them exactly what I just said. I'd say go get yourself a list of people that own houses around you. Easy to do. Google for that. People sell that all the time. And go to work. Start contacting them. That's it.
Yep.
Lights out.